If you are trying to build muscle, there are several requirements, but one of those requirements is that you need your level of muscle protein synthesis to exceed that of your muscle protein breakdown. And in order for your muscle protein synthesis to exceed that of your muscle protein breakdown, there are several more requirements. And one of those requirements is that you need to be consuming an adequate amount of protein, which brings us to the next question. How much is an adequate amount of protein? Well, hey everyone, thanks for tuning in and welcome back to another Sunday Q&A. Steven here with Team Euphoric, and today's question comes from the Carnivore Bodybuilding group on Facebook, where a member had recently asked, what's people's thoughts on protein intake when trying to gain size? 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight is what Google says everywhere, but I have that much easily and seriously struggle to gain. I'm currently 71 kg and I've been going to the gym for 4 to 5 months, started at 68. I did have 3 weeks off with an acquired broken foot, which holds me back from some leg exercises, but I've got bigger than this before at a faster rate. 78 kg is my record and I'm 6 foot 1 inches tall. Those times I was eating more carbs, but I see plenty of carnivores getting bulky. Well, with regard to this right over here, if you are trying to build muscle, there are several requirements, but one of those requirements is that you need your level of muscle protein synthesis to exceed that of your muscle protein breakdown. And in order for your muscle protein synthesis to exceed that of your muscle protein breakdown, there are several more requirements. And one of those requirements is that you need to be consuming an adequate amount of protein, which brings us to the next question. How much is an adequate amount of protein? Well, your protein requirements are going to come in a range, and that range is going to be anywhere from 0.8 grams to 1.5 grams per pound of body weight, and it's really going to depend on whether you're in a caloric deficit or whether you're in a caloric surplus. When you are in a caloric deficit, your body's going to be in more of a naturally catabolic state, which means your protein requirements are going to be a lot higher, so you're going to want to get closer to the higher end of that 1.5 gram range, whereas when you are in a caloric surplus, your protein requirements are not going to be quite as high, because when you're in a caloric surplus, your body is naturally going to be in a more anabolic state, and because you're in a more anabolic state, your protein requirements are going to be a lot lower, so you can get away with closer to that lower end of that range, closer to that 0.8. And then if you're trying to maintain your weight while building muscle, then you should be fine with just 1 gram per pound. But that's pretty much some general guidelines with regard to protein consumption if you are trying to build muscle. And for you specifically, I know you mentioned that you were trying to bulk up a little bit, so you're trying to gain size. So for you, because you are trying to gain size, that means you're going to need to be in a caloric surplus. And because you're going to be in a caloric surplus, you should be able to get away with that 0.8 grams per pound of body weight. And that 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, not 0.8 kg, as Google suggested according to your question. But that's basically what you need to know. Because you're in a caloric surplus, try aiming for 0.8 grams per pound. And then if you are somebody who is trying to maintain, a 1 gram per pound should be fine. And then if you are somebody who's in a deficit, depending on the level of the deficit that you're in, that's going to dictate how much protein you need. If you're in a small deficit, you could get away with 1.1, 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. If you're in a larger deficit, then you're going to want to get even closer to the higher end of that range, like 1.5. And then one thing worth noting is, with regard to building muscle while being in a deficit, if you are in too big of a deficit, then it doesn't matter how much protein you consume. Eventually, it's going to get to a point where even with all the protein in the world, you're not going to be able to gain muscle if you are in too big of a deficit. So that's one thing worth noting. If you are in too big of a deficit, you're definitely going to want to readjust your goals, because you're not going to be able to put on a whole lot of muscle if you are in a very, very large deficit. But that's pretty much it in terms of today's question. If you have any questions with regard to anything that I said today, go ahead and ask your questions down in the comment section so I can help you guys out. And that's pretty much it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to smash that like button so I know to keep making these types of videos in the future. And if you're either new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, as I will be uploading new videos every single day. That's it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again tomorrow.